Can you guys all see? Yeah, feel a little bit better. Alrighty, so good evening to everyone. This is very exciting. I'm very happy to be here and to share with you guys a little bit some of the experiences that I've had. Quick show of hands. Can you please raise your hand if you have any sort of a financial product? Bank account, credit card, anything? Raise your hand. Okay. Can you raise your hand if you don't? Okay. So some of you might be surprised to hear that 1.7 billion people around the world actually don't have access to any sort of formal financial product or service. And those that do have, many of them don't actually use them or know how to use them. So tonight I wanted to share with you some tales of my digital disasters in attempting to fix this massive problem. So the year was 2012. I had finished up grad school. I was really excited to work in international development, and I had been spending some time in Serbia, where I'm originally from, and decided to take a job in Bogota, Colombia, and to move there for what was supposed to be just 1 year, to work with this organization called Fvckup and to address this particular challenge. So maybe just to step back a little bit, I've always been fascinated with the challenges of poverty and the ways in which people have figured out how to survive in a difficult and challenging time. If you don't know, the former Yugoslavia, we went through a war and some economic sanctions, and so the massive change that happens where you go from having things to not having them, and the ways in which people figured out how to maneuver in the uncertainty, to me was just really fascinating. And so in particular, I focus on the question of poverty, but through the lens of finance. So how do people make money, save money, where do they put that money? And what we find is that as much as there's been progress in people getting access to financial products and services, there's still not a lot of knowledge about how to use them. And there's this big barrier to people, let's say using an ATM. And so our big question was, okay, how do we make this accessible to people? How do we provide training at massive scale? So being in the day and age that we are in today, we thought, okay, digital is the way to go, right? Technology is going to solve everybody's problems. So there's this experience that happened in India. This is the Hole in the Wall project. The idea was very simple. Drill a hole in the wall and stick a computer in there, put it at the level of kids, and kids are going to use it. And it was actually really successful. In a rural village in the middle of nowhere, kids flocked and they used the computers. And not only did they figure out how the mouse works and the keyboard works, they figured out how to type. In some cases, they learned how to speak English or write and read in English. In some cases, they learned how to code. So it was a really successful model, and we thought, yeah, we could totally take that to Latin America. That's absolutely going to work. People are going to use this for financial education. They're going to learn how to do the budget. They're going to figure out how to use ATMs. And adults, women in rural areas are going to love this. So as one does, the best way to figure out how things work is to go and spend some time and see what things are like on the ground. So we had gotten a little bit of funding, and I had arrived in Colombia all bright and chipper, super eager to get started, and then I was told that I was actually in charge of this project. I said, I actually have never worked in technology. I don't know the first thing about this. I said, oh, don't worry, you'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, we're 4 months late. Okay, this is great. So I tried as quickly as I could to learn as much as I could, spend some time traveling, but you talk to people and you still have no idea what this is going to look like. So we said, okay, yeah, no, let's do this. It worked in India. Let's try a similar thing. So what is it going to look like? How do you build something like what they did in India? So we ended up saying, okay, let's build an app, a tablet-based app, because touchscreens are super simple to use. And we'll just, we'll stick it in a wall. Okay, well, there's no what wall, and what do you do when it rains? And so, okay, so we actually built, we had stands built. Actually, that stand cost $500. So when you're talking about manufacturing, that's a problem. And the lovely bank manager was super excited. Yeah, we love your project. No, totally great. We totally want to support women, access to finance. It's perfect. So hypothesis number one, if you build it, they will come. Nope. Who wants to spend 2 hours standing in front of that thing, going through and clicking through and listening to this program all about financial education? nobody. I think there were 15 people that registered on there, and that was before the bank manager turned the dial down all the way so that the audio wouldn't be too loud and annoying, and then broke the knob so nobody could turn it back up. Oh, and then they managed to delete the app from the tablet. So that was fun. So the reality is, yeah, that doesn't really work. What we ended up doing was we developed a system where we actually have community leaders that rotate the tablets in the field, and so one tablet can be used by 100 women or 200 women over time. So they'll use it for 2 days, they'll pass it on to their friend, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is the sort of situation in which they're using it, right? In the comfort of their homes, with their kids, you know, in the little bits of time that they find throughout the day to learn. So much more successful model, but you know, you gotta try. The second thought was, okay, this is financial education and training. Nobody wants to sit through this. How are we going to get people to actually go through and participate in this? Because we know it's really useful for them. But you know, just like when your parents tell you to eat your veggies, well, like if you smother them in cheese, maybe they'll be fun. So this is our cheese. We sent text messages to people, congratulatory messages like, yay, good job, you're doing so well. So every time they would complete one of the modules, they would get a text message that said, you know, you're doing a great job. And because this is tech, we were able to do this automatic. We had SIM cards in there with data, and so it was ping, it was gonna be perfect. And when people registered, we had their names, and so it was personalized too. This is gonna be great. And then we thought, okay, well, let's just test out and you know a few different approaches. So you know maybe the text message won't be enough. Maybe they need a little incentive, a little bit of money. So we gave them cell phone credit top-ups. I said, okay, that's great. That's what we're going to do. The problem is that in rural areas, there's no signal. And when you're trying to upload all of this amazing data through the internet and you're trying to sync all the tablets together, you have a problem. The tablets weren't syncing, the app was getting blocked, so we had to take them all offline. And so what would happen is, 3 weeks later when we eventually did sync all the data, somewhere around 3 o'clock in the morning, there was a woman whose cell phone was blowing all over the place with text messages, and her husband's asking, who is texting you at 3 o'clock in the morning? So needless to say, this idea of having these like automatic text messages was a total failure. In the end, what we found is that you know, a simple thing, just like a little congratulatory message, a little star by their name, that was all the incentive that they need. And it was really exciting because people actually found the information useful and went through it and didn't need all these nudges like we thought they might. And finally, our third hypothesis, if you don't measure, then it really didn't matter. So this is something that, you know, if you're working in sort of the nonprofit space or in the social business, you know, everybody wants to know, okay, what impact are you having? Okay, well, digital is going to let me, you know, measure for cheap, and I'm going to get access to all this data. You know, we're now in the age of big data and AI, and this is going to be like the way forward. And so we promised, oh yeah, so we're going to know everything about our users. We're also going to be able to tell you, you know, what level of poverty they're in. So we applied this, you know, very intricate survey, asking things like, what kind of energy do you use to cook? So we tried really hard to make it cute. You know, you can see it's like a spiral bound notebook. There's a little puppy in there. It's supposed to be really simple, but if you don't know how to read or read very well, and if you're asking all these questions, yeah, nobody's gonna fill out your survey. So in some cases, actually, we had people that said, oh, this questionnaire is to figure out our level of poverty and you're gonna kick me out of the social welfare program, so I'm not gonna respond correctly. So nobody likes surveys, and also the data were not really useful. And so we ended up designing a much more simplified interface with something as simple as, you know, provide us with your cell phone number, and then you type it in as you would punch it in into a cell phone. So pretty self-explanatory, but you have to go through a lot of iterations to get there. So I think context really matters. In Spanish, the word for tablet is tabla. It's commonly used, which is also happens to be the word for cutting board. This did not happen to us. This happened before we started to a different government project that was just like handing out tablets to everyone. It was sort of an electoral thing. So they actually had a few cases of women who used the tablets as cutting boards. Another thing that did happen to us was that in Honduras, we had some religious leaders that were very concerned about these noises that were coming from this device, and that was clearly satanic, so please don't use your tablets because the devil is inside them. So all of these sorts of things that you learn along the way, and you think about technology and its role, and you think, we all use it and it's wonderful for us, but the reality is sometimes a little bit different. So I think along the way we've learned a lot from that first experience. We've iterated a ton. We now have adapted it to 7 different countries. We've had 400,000 different users, which is really exciting. And we've also done a lot more research and know that it's actually working and helping people save, which is very exciting. But I think the important thing is that when we think about technology being the solution to all of the world's problems, context really matters. The design and the delivery have to be thought through, and these were lessons that were earned the tough way through a lot of failure. Thanks.